Showtime! The Capital G Show starts right now.
What's up, YouTube? Capital G here, doing another episode of How Come No One Plays This Shit. And today, the card I'm talking about is Gagagashield. It's a card that I don't really think was that viable until Prophecy really hit the scene and became one of the best decks in the format. Hell, I think you could even make an argument that Prophecy is the best deck of the format. And the way that the deck is specifically constructed now, where you have the Kaiku Jogan beatdown, like you have two key monsters that can really lock down and isolate some of the best things that a deck like Dragon or Mermail do. So it's like, you know, this is one of those cards where I think that right now it's kind of the perfect storm for this card to be really fantastic. And for those of you guys who don't know what the card does, it says, target one spellcaster type monster you control, equip this card to that target twice per turn. It cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. So people will probably almost immediately associate this card with Safe Zone and start making comparisons, which I think is perfectly fair because the cards are really similar in their text, but there are some key differences. Now, the first and most notable obvious drawback about this card is that your opponent can still target your equipped monster with effects. Now, it actually sounds like a huge deal, but it's not really as big as you think. Like, when you think about how many commonly played effects out there actually target but you know, also destroy, you've got like High Priestess of Prophecy, Blaster, Heavy Infantry, Volcasaurus, Dracosac. So, you know, your Gagagashield, it protects your monster from all those effects. You know, now there are some cards, of course, that your opponent can still hit you with that the shield will not give you protection for. You know, cards like Book of Moon, Tsukuyomi, Big Eye, Compulse Evacuation Device, Breakthrough Skill. You know, those cards will obviously hurt you. But when you actually break down, you know, just like the top 5 decks of the format, each deck probably only has about 2 cards in their deck that target your card specifically, but don't actually destroy the monster. Now, let's go to the benefits of Gagagashield over Safe Zone, because there are some, but, you know, I don't want to just sweep them under the rug because I think that this is a pretty good card. First off, your monster can attack directly. Now, some people might say, oh, well, that's not really that important, but it actually can be. Let's say you're playing the control version of Spellbooks, and you put a Gagagashield on a card like Kaiku against Dragon Rulers. Well, they're already going to be in a tough position, but, you know, your Kaiku is getting powered up by Starhall. I mean, it's very easy to get a Kaiku over 2,500 where, you know, Safe Zone wouldn't let you poke in with that Kaiku. Your opponent could basically just sit there for a couple of turns knowing that you can't attack directly, and in a deck like Spellbooks where your other associate monsters or your other associated monsters like Spellbook, Magician, and Jogan don't have very high attack, I mean, it can take you a while to do damage unless you draw like another copy of Kaiku. So that can actually be pretty relevant. Next thing is you can target monsters in defense position. This is good because when you activate Spellbook of Judgment and you summon your Jogan out, you almost always summon Jogan in defense mode. So you can equip your Gagagashield on the Jogan if your opponent tries to run it over with something like, you know, an Abyss Lende or, you know, a Baby Dragon without needlessly taking battle damage. And, I mean, it might not end up being a lot of battle damage, but in the grand scheme of things, over a whole do, it's like, why take 1,000 life points if I didn't have to? You know, and then lastly, and this is probably the most important reason why I really like this card, if Gagagashield is destroyed, you still get to keep your monster. Like, this is really huge because, you know, there's nothing worse than getting like heavy stormed, and not only do you lose all your back row, I mean, you lose your Spellbook of Fate and, you know, your Spellbook Starhall and your Grand Tower and all of that stuff, but, you know, to have to lose a Kaiku or a Jogan at the same time, like, that's a really bad position that you're going to be put into. And if you're playing against a deck like Mermail or Dragon Rulers and you have like Gagagashield equipped into a Jogan, you know, they're going to have to waste like Blaster or something like Heavy Infantry and take out the Gagagashield first before they can even think about getting that card off the board. So, you know, it kind of makes your opponent run the gauntlet. Whereas, you know, if you have Safe Zone and your opponent pops it with Blaster, I mean, they basically killed 2 birds with 1 stone, and you're left again in a very like non-advantageous position. So, I mean, I just think that this card has some pretty good uses, mainly because you have a deck like Prophecy right now that it's basically a pure control deck with the main focus being Kaiku and Jogen, which are obviously prime candidates for you to use Gagagashield on, and the entire deck is Spellcaster, so it works perfectly right now. So guys, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think of Gagagashield, and take care. Subscribing makes life happy.